Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in again to one of my videos on the Stony River channel. Today I want to talk about the MSR Dragonfly stove, used primarily probably for backpacking and camping in general. And here you're looking at it's all put away in its pouch. We'll open it up and see what the contents look like here. Alright, so here's the stove itself, and here is the part that attaches to the fuel pump, or this is the part that attaches to the fuel canister, and then you pump it to kind of vaporize the liquid fuel. So let's open up the stove. Our stove is open, and for fuel, these MSR stoves, most of them, some of them take a pre-canistered fuel, some take both, but this Dragonfly takes a liquid fuel. And one of the advantages of this stove is that it takes a variety of liquid fuel. So the standard configuration can accept white gas, which is what I've only ever used on this, or regular unleaded gasoline. And if you kind of swap out a certain component within this stove, you can even use diesel fuel or jet fuel. So 4 different fuels can power the stove, and that versatility is what makes it really cool. The fuel bottle itself, MSR makes their own, but I have a kind of a throwback bottle. Just got this for free. This is the brand is SIG, and I think a lot of people use these for water bottles instead of fuel bottles, but I believe their original use was for fuel, for camp stoves. And yeah, the modern day MSR ones are nicer. I would say they have kind of like a safer cap, like less prone to spilling and just safer in general. But this SIG bottle functions plenty fine. So the next step, the first step really, is to attach this piece to the top of the fuel bottle. So I'm going to remove the lid on the fuel canister and attach this little pump item. So we're going to do that first. Alright, so that's attached. Now this is the main valve right here. So I'm just going to make sure that's closed, and then I'm going to be unpumping this, using this pump to vaporize the fuel. Now, this can, you don't want to fill them all the way. See, there's a fill line right there. It's faded. This is an old bottle. But you want to leave some space in the bottle to allow for that fuel to vaporize. So now I'm going to pump it about 20 to 30 times till you get a lot of resistance. Now, the lower the level the fuel is, probably the more you'll need to pump. Oh, maybe I should have tightened that a little bit more. That's my bad. See, I'm learning with you guys too. See how that does. I don't know. Next step with the stove is to, let's see, here's the other valve that controls gas flow. I'm going to close that. That permits fuel into the stove itself, whereas this valve permits fuel to leave the fuel canister, the fuel bottle. So we have to connect the two together, right? So you have this end right here, and you need to insert that into this part right here, and then it kind of clamps on. Now you have to lubricate this end right here, which can be done typically, I think I've only ever seen it done with saliva, but there are oils, I guess you could use an oil too, but everyone I've ever met just kind of spits on it. So you just want to simply insert this lubricated end into here all the way, and then you can kind of secure it with this clip here. And then we have our stove and our fuel, and we're ready to go. All right, you have to kind of preheat the MSR stove, if you will, and I'll kind of show you how that goes. So the step one for that is to open the valve on the bottle all the way, the fuel bottle. Hopefully I pressurized that enough, we'll see. And then we're just gonna very slightly open the other valve that's attached to the stove. You're just gonna wanna let a tiny amount of fuel to enter the stove, and then you will close the valve. So just let a little bit of liquid fuel, and you'll see it come in, just a tiny amount. All right, that might have been too much even. So now we're gonna light it. And you'll see a flame burning. Now, you kind of want to let this burn down in size quite a lot. So once again, this valve here on the stove is closed. The one on the bottle is fully open. And we're kind of just priming it. So we're gonna let this burn for a couple minutes. And as it diminishes in size, we will attempt to open the valve, which will then be basically burning vaporized fuel at that point, and then it'll kind of turn from an orange flame to a blue flame, and then you're ready to cook. And what's on the menu for today is rice. That's what we're cooking. Now the flame is big. It's kind of windy here. I'm outdoors. This stove, just to mention, always comes with what's called a windshield. And this one's it's all folded up right now, but it's basically just heavy-duty aluminum foil that you can wrap around to prevent the wind from affecting your stove. So I'm not even really going to try to use it right now because this is just demonstration purposes. So now the flame is getting smaller. I'll let it go a little bit lower, and then I'm going to try to turn it on. We'll see how, it's been a while since I've actually used this, so this is testing my own memory as well. I'm going to slowly open it. All right, there we go. There we go, got a blue flame. See if that goes, how that works. So I'll let that burn. Like I said, I'm outside right now with no windshield, so I don't know if this is ideal conditions, but you can see the stove is making noise. I'm going to open it a little bit more. Turn it up a little bit more, see how the full throttle yet. Now the beauty of the MSR Dragonfly stove is that you can adjust the intensity of the cooking heat. So you can simmer, that's the beauty of it. Things like a jet boil for the most part, or the pocket rocket style stoves, which I've talked about in other videos, you can't simmer. So that's more like you boil water, you throw in a dehydrated food packet, and you're done. You can like cook from this, that's the beauty. That's full on, full bore. So, I'm gonna put the pot on. Cooking rice, it's a 2-to-1 ratio of water to rice. I'm gonna add 1 cup of water. Let that water come to a complete boil, and then I'm gonna add a it's boiling now, we'll add the half cup of rice. Remember, that's a 2-to-1 ratio, water to rice. And when I cook rice, typically I rinse it first, which I didn't do. A buddy of mine told me a long time ago it's always better to rinse the rice first. I'm not sure why, but if you know why, let me know in the comments section. But at any rate, I usually rinse it. I didn't this time. I let it come to a boil with the rice inside the water, and then I'll put it on the simmer until it's done. And that's the beauty of the MSR Dragonfly. The ability to actually cook. So let that come back to a boil, and then I'm going to turn it down on the simmer. It's cold, so put that back on. Now while we let it come back to a boil, let's talk about some of the advantages and the disadvantages of such a stove. Of course, it's cool to have a reusable fuel bottle that you can fill. The versatility of the fuel that this stove can accept is remarkable. I mean, imagine you could use regular gasoline, unleaded gasoline, diesel, jet fuel. And white gas is very common. Any hardware store, camping place will sell it. Alright, we're boiling again. So I'm going to turn it down, get it to a simmer, using this valve right there. The trick is not to not turn it off, right? That's what you don't want to do. How low can you go? I'm gonna stir it again. So yeah, to get back to some of the advantages and disadvantages of the MSR kind of camping stoves is that you have a refillable bottle that accepts a wide variety of fuels. And you can actually cook with it. It has the ability to simmer and adjust the temperature of the stove. The disadvantage is of it. Its disadvantages include the fact that it's heavy. The fuel bottles are heavy. The stove itself is heavier than, like, say, a pocket rocket or a jet boil. So, if you want to actually cook when you're camping, these are amazing. And they are able to be worked on, maintained. Maintenance is able to be applied to them in the field, whereas some of those other ones, no, they break, you're kind of screwed. So you can actually, like, fix and repair these, and they do require just general maintenance occasionally, cleaning and such, which you can find detailed in another video. But that's the advantage. Versatility. You don't have to throw away a bottle. Those jet boils and pocket rockets, basically, they're just like throwaway isobutane bottles, canisters, basically. So that's it. So it's, you know, if you're going on the boundary waters and you have a group of people, I'd definitely go with one of these types of stoves. But if you were doing like an ultralight solo backpacking trip and you're okay with eating a lot of freeze-dried food, such as like Mountain House, etc., then maybe you want to go with the jet boil or a pocket rocket style model. Of course, you couldn't go camping without any stove too. It just depends on how much you want to rough it. So this is simmering. It's starting to rain, actually. It's actually a pretty legit simmer right there. I'm happy with that. We'll let this cook, and we'll check in when the rice is done. So yeah, the rice is about done, and the proper way to turn the stove off is to first shut the valve, kind of in a reverse order. You're going to shut the valve off on the bottle, and then you kind of just let any residual fuel that's in the fuel line, it'll kind of just burn out over time. And once that burns out, and you can kind of see it fluttering out a little bit there, you can turn the other valve off. This valve right here, that can be then turned off once that flame kind of flickers out, basically. And then you've kind of bled the line, kept the line clean of any excess fuel. So yeah, I'm gonna eat some rice and enjoy the beauty that is the Northwoods. And I just want to remind you that if for whatever reason you like these stupid videos I make, if I get enough subscribers, I can become YouTube famous and quit my job. So please subscribe. Even if you don't watch them, you can just hit subscribe to help me quit my job. But yeah, I'm gonna put all the specs for this stove. Once again, this is the MSR Dragonfly stove, accepts 4 different fuel types. They make a couple other sort of similar models, a couple iterations of what's known as the Whisper Light. I don't have one, otherwise I'd make a video on that. But this is the Dragonfly, really popular camping stove, wide variety of fuel acceptance, and it is incredibly versatile for cooking. You can simmer, you can actually cook. But yeah, so it's expensive though. I'll put all the specs, the weight, and all that in the description below. It's probably like 150 bucks, but I'll do some more research into what's going for these days. So now that that flame went off, I can close the valve on the stove and then just kind of put it away the same way I set it up. So thanks everybody for watching.